There is a moment in deep inner work that almost no one prepares you for. It is not bliss. It is not transcendence. It is not expansion. It is the collapse of meaning. Things that once felt important suddenly feel thin. Motivation weakens. Narratives dissolve. Even purpose feels artificial. And most people think something has gone wrong, but nothing is wrong. You are seeing structure. In earlier episodes, we examined identity, attention, and the architecture of perception. Now, we move into a phase that many experience, but few understand. Why does meaning collapse during awakening? Why do ambitions feel hollow? Why do beliefs lose gravity? Why does the story of my life begin to feel staged? Because meaning is not fundamental. It is constructed, and awakening reveals the construction. What meaning actually is, meaning feels intrinsic, as if it lives inside events. But meaning is not inside events. It is layered onto them. An event happens, then the mind asks, what does this say about me? What does this mean for my future? How does this fit into my story? Meaning is narrative glue. It connects isolated moments into continuity. Without that glue, life feels fragmented, but the glue is added, not inherent. This is the first destabilizing realization. How the brain constructs meaning. Modern neuroscience suggests the brain operates as a prediction engine. It constantly generates models to reduce uncertainty. Meaning is part of that model. When something happens, the mind immediately integrates it into identity, goals, memory, expectation. This integration creates coherence, and coherence feels like meaning. But during awakening, something shifts. Identification with the narrative weakens. When identification weakens, the narrative loses authority. When narrative loses authority, meaning begins to dissolve. The 3 layers of meaning. Meaning is not one thing, it has layers. Layer 1, survival, meaning. Basic orientation, safe or unsafe, useful or dangerous. This layer remains intact even during awakening. It is biological. Layer 2, personal meaning. This is where most collapse occurs. Questions like, does this make me successful? Does this validate me? Is this aligned with my life purpose? When identity loosens, this layer destabilizes. Achievements feel neutral. Status feels abstract. Future goals feel imagined. Not because life is empty, but because the narrative layer is thinning. Layer 3, existential meaning. This is the deepest layer. Why am I here? What is the purpose of existence? During awakening, this layer often dissolves entirely, and what remains is not despair. It is openness, but the transition can feel like loss. Why collapse? Feels frightening. Meaning stabilizes the self. Without meaning, identity feels unanchored, and the nervous system interprets unanchored identity as threat. This is why meaning collapse can feel like depression, but they are not identical. Depression is heaviness and contraction. Meaning collapse is spacious but unfamiliar. The difference is subtle. In depression, everything feels negative. In meaning collapse, everything feels neutral. Neutrality is often misinterpreted as emptiness, but neutrality is clarity before reconstruction. Living with clarity after collapse. The mistake is trying to rebuild meaning too quickly, to grasp for new purpose, new identity, new spiritual narrative. But clarity does not require narrative urgency. After meaning collapses, something quieter becomes visible. Direct experience, breath, sound, movement, presence. Without imposed interpretation, life continues, but without the constant pressure of significance. This is not nihilism. It is simplicity. Meaning is no longer something you extract. It becomes something you apply lightly. Meaning collapses because it was never the foundation. It was the overlay. When the overlay dissolves, reality does not disappear. It becomes less interpreted. And living with clarity does not mean living without meaning. It means knowing that meaning is constructed and choosing it consciously, not clinging to it unconsciously. The collapse of meaning is not the end of awakening. It is a purification stage. The mind releases narrative compulsion. What remains is simpler, quieter, more direct. In the next episode, we will examine the nervous system's role in this process, because clarity is not only psychological, it is physiological, and stability determines whether collapse becomes freedom or confusion. Until then, observe gently. Notice how meaning forms, and notice how easily it dissolves.